Hey, I'm the composer and poet Andrew Lloyd Fry, and this is episode 8 of the Composer's Process. This is the last episode. It's done. So if you've joined me through this whole journey, thank you. It's been really nice for me, just like kind of having that accountability, and I think it's helped me get the project done and helped me think about what I'm doing. And it's kind of like a lot of school, them giving you a project to do and having to talk about it is like a lot of the education. So if you've joined me all the way through, thank you. This is the last one. So I've been working on music for gratitude, and I shared 2 sections that I had, and I wasn't quite sure like how they would fit, and I knew that wasn't the whole piece. So I want to go over those sections and then talk about like a new thing that I added to it. So the first thing was I talked about this idea last episode 7. So I won't go into detail what I'm doing there, but I decided that felt a really like quintessential core of the piece. So I just decided I'm going to start just with that, like piece opens, that idea comes, and it just feels like it immediately sets the tone of like what I'm trying to do, and it just kind of cuts straight to the chase versus like building or trying to get there, like going on a journey to get there. So it's gonna start, and then I realized I needed a second idea, and then I'm gonna go back to that. So that really is just kind of like my chorus of the piece. So then the other idea I talked about was this. So that idea is going to be at the end. And, it's like, I almost felt like this thing was kind of like a Firebird climax kind of thing that just like repeats over and over and builds and builds. The problem is, it's solo piano, it's my piano ability is limited. I've talked about just both the limitation of for me to have time to practice. I have a hand injury, and I'm just like not as good just even without those. So there's only like so much I can do. And one of the steering concepts for all this is like, this is music for me to play. So, and I don't really have time to practice like a bunch. So it's got to be stuff that's like for my skill easy enough, that I just don't have to spend forever working on it. So it's limited how much I can build this solo piano. And if you had somebody with more skill, you would have more options. So originally, one of my ideas was my first idea was that I was going to develop the harmony, and that this thing would stay constant, and the harmony is getting denser and denser, and it's like every time it repeats, I'm inserting more and more chords, which is, I think, an interesting idea. But then one day I was playing, and this just kind of came out. Let's see, that's not it. So that was triplets. And pretty simple. I mean, I'm just like doing the chord, and then the top note is the melody. So then I was thinking, maybe I like start with eighth notes. And then maybe I would go over to like 2/3. And then I would go to straight triplets. But that wasn't feeling right either. So kind of as I kept working with it, what I settled on was just keeping it in eighth notes. And originally I was gonna just really build this thing and take it up in intensity and volume. but that just like wasn't quite feeling right. And I think, you know, this is a piece about gratitude, and keeping it slower and keeping it simpler felt more effective. So this whole project, I think there's been a lot, and probably my compositional journey that I've been on the last couple of years is like trying to not let cool music ideas steer the piece. And what steers the piece is what feels most effective. And I think this can be a problem in classical music, where it's like the logic takes over the ear. And I think, like, I love cool musical ideas, and like, you know, this idea of the harmony is getting denser and denser every time it goes. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, how does it sound, and what's your goal for the piece, and is it accomplishing that goal? So a lot of my solutions through this whole project have been the easy ones. And in some level, that's been hard, because it's like, oh, this is a cool idea, but this simpler thing is better to my ears. So I'm trying to go with that. So what I settled with on this, a bit slower, and definitely some sense of like speed up, slow down, crescendo. Not that, sorry. There we go. The idea. So that felt a lot more emotionally effective. So that's what I'm going to go with. One of the things that's happening there, so this theme is in there, but it's augmented and it's twice as long. So I think that's kind of interesting. Now, I talked in the last episode about audience participation. That's kind of been a big piece of a lot of this music, and even composing that. I'm composing with that in mind. So that theme is the part that I wanted audience participation with. So I had a concert last week, 2 weeks ago, and I got to try it out, and it worked, and it was super cool. So there's a video of it, an excerpt, so that'll be, I'll like put that on the end screen. And I realized, like, a lot of those ideas, they can be really good ideas, but you have to facilitate it right, or it's just going to be like a total bomb. And it's definitely more risky doing like an audience participation, because like if it doesn't work, it's really awkward. So first, before I played the piece, I played this just for the audience. And then I had the whole audience hum it, just because that is easier to do, less scary, and just kind of like getting the wheels turning. And then we did one practice singing, I am so thankful, thankful, thankful. So we just did like a 1 minute practice, and then I played the piece, and it was super cool. Like, the whole room was singing that, and so I was very happy about that. This was my favorite part about the concert. So again, check that out. Okay, so those were the ideas that that I already had. Oh, by the way, so on that last idea, so I think I'll just like have this idea kind of introduced, isolated, go to this thing, do that probably 2 cycles, and then go back to that isolated idea. Now, when I went back to it, that's where the audience came in. On the recording, it'll probably just do like one kind of quiet time repeating the melody. Okay, so I still needed this B section. So I had this thing, and I just needed something really to put insert between doing that and doing it again. It's almost, yeah. So this went through like a lot of transformations till I came to the idea. Like, so my original idea was something like this, if I can still remember how it goes. Let's see. something like that. So the next day I came back to that. It's like, no, I don't like that. Which the next day test is a good test. I think when we're creating, there's like, it's kind of like we're on drugs, and that just like creative thing is going on, and everything can feel amazing. And then you go back to the next day, and it's like, no, I don't like that. So yeah, just didn't feel good about it the next day. So then I started messing around with keeping the harmony that I already had from that, and just like creating something new on top. And originally for this piece, I wanted to make something kind of a partner piece to the Living from A New Kind of Air. And a lot of that album, and specifically To the Living, like the left hand is crazy slow. You know, it's just like stuff like this. I can't remember what it is, but it's like super slow half notes in the left hand, really open, really transparent. And it's like a really slow, simple, more like idea of counterpoint versus full chords. And I really like that sound. And I thought it was interesting doing that in a really slow way versus like Bach is like, you know, a million notes a minute. But the ideas took me somewhere else, but I kind of veered back to that. So with this idea started like this. Let's see if I can remember. This is like version 2. I landed on version 3. I think it was this. No, that wasn't it. I'm forgetting the old version. Something like that. So that felt like directionally right. And, you know, we've got more of a counter melody. Anyways, I'm kind of forgetting what it was. But this thing, it just wasn't quite sitting right. So I pared that down a little bit more, and this is another example where it's like, I felt like it was kind of a cool idea, but I just had to go with like the sound. And what I landed on was something less melodic, which again, yeah, that kind of felt like a sacrifice, but I felt like it was better with the left hand being a little less melodic. So I'm hitting a lot more chord tones. Okay, now hopefully I can remember this one. Okay, I'm remembering. Yeah, okay, so that's the idea. I'm glad I was able to remember it. So if we look at the left hand, that's the first part. So that is less melodic then. That, you know, has much more of a melodic flow, but again, just like what was sounding better. What I liked about it is it makes these like little momentary pedal notes. That E right there. And then that E continues on the next chord. And then the next little section has a new pedal, which is G sharp. again. So probably what I'll do is I'll introduce this idea a little bit more open in the left hand, like. So it'll go through one cycle. I think it's 8. I think it's an 8 measure cycle. I can't remember. It feels more because it's pretty slow. And then it'll repeat, but now the only thing that's different is the left hand's going to be more active. Let's see. Okay, and then the only other thing I want to go over is just a little bit of kind of the mechanics of the melody there. So, this is our first idea. So it's kind of like two bass ideas. We have this G sharp, E, G sharp thing. And then we go up to the E and it's like a quick thing. But that's also E and G sharp. So it's using like a lot of the same notes, which is kind of interesting. So then we're going D sharp, E, D sharp, E. Then it kind of resets. But this time instead of it's going. So it's like still going to that G sharp, but then D sharp, C sharp. So again, let's see. And then here's idea A, but varied. And then that E, that quick E, G sharp thing is the same. So then it's kind of like drop all that melodic material and just move on to something else. Now right there, I'm just outlining the chord I'm on, F sharp minor. And then I take that idea through a sequence and I do outline the C sharp minor chord. So again, F sharp minor chord. And that's like exactly the same, just kind of fit. Everything's down. What is that? A fifth. And you can get a little overboard with the sequences. I try not to go like too crazy with it because then it gets a little formulaic. But just doing it twice and then it kind of goes to this. These kind of measures of rest. And that's kind of how that section's gonna go. Okay, so I think as far as the project goes, there's probably going back through everything and making minor tweaks. I think all the pieces are like, 95% of the way done. Some of it is notated in software, some of it's not, so I need to do that. And then I'm hoping to record it all probably in the first half of 2026. So hopefully it will be out by fall 2026. Okay, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. We'll see you later.